Hello and welcome back to another episode of Not Ready for Primetime Crafting series here on Tanya Gale Adventures. Today I'm going to introduce you to the new Cricut Mug Press that was released on March 11th of this year. Cricut has managed to streamline the sublimation process for mugs and other containers that will give other mug presses a real run for their money. Through the Cricut Access program, I purchased the Essentials Mug Press bundle with a 10% discount and free shipping if you're an Access member. This bundle came with the press, 2 types of infusible ink markers, heat-resistant tape, and 4 12-ounce mugs. So how does this mug press work? That's a good question. And what is infusible ink? I had to look that up myself. The mug press simply uses high heat and time to evenly transfer images created using the infusible ink onto specially coated mugs. The round heating plate coils around the mug to evenly infuse the ink into the surface substrate of this mug. This type of adherence will make your design peel-proof and dishwasher safe. The mug press determines the temperature and time. All the user needs to do is simply press a button. Genius! And what is infusible ink? I have 3 types of infusible ink here that are Cricut's proprietary inks. What do they do? What is it? Well, infusible ink is a type of ink that, when applied with a lot of heat over time, will convert from a solid to a gas, and that gas will actually bind within the surface of a substrate, or a mug in this case. So make sure when we're working with this that you have very good ventilation, because the trick to this is really turning the solid ink into a gas. And this mug is specially coated in order, when the heat is applied and the ink becomes a gaseous state, it will accept the gaseous state into this surface. So you really need good ventilation. Other heat transfer materials that you can put on a mug like this actually just sit on the surface of the mug. And what will happen over time and use is the colors may fade, or the vinyl may just fall off and or wear away. With infusible ink, it's completely different. It's going to be part of the mug, so you're not going to have that kind of wear. And I have mugs that were done with sublimation, or in this case what we're using is infusible ink, that I bought many moons ago, and you'd never know that they were that old of a mug. So this is a technique that's been around for a while, but Cricut's come in and they do what they normally do, is they take the process and simplify it as much as possible. So it's a tabletop version, it's a one-click action, and in 15 minutes to a half an hour you will have a mug, which is really nice. So we are going to create a very simple design. I'm not going to be using the infusible inks that came with the kit. I'm actually going to be using this infusible ink. It's called Bright Teal for this design, and it's quite a pretty color. So I've already cut off the section that I need, and once the heat is applied to this material, it will turn into this color. So it's really good. So the supplies we're going to need, let me move this out of the way. The supplies we're going to need for our design will be, of course, the mug press, infusible ink, a mug, a specially coated mug, a heat pad, a Cricut Joy. We're going to be using the Joy today, even though you can use any cutting machine with this material. A lint roller, which is going to be key because you want to make sure your surface area is completely free of debris and dust. You don't want that adhering into the surface. And of course, freshly brewed coffee, which goes without saying, or tea, whatever your preference is. Let's go jump into Design Space and see what kind of design I cooked up for you. Okay, here we are in Cricut Design Space. Today we're starting at the Cricut Design Space homepage. In order to create our design for our mug, we need to use a template. We can use a pre-designed template, or we can use a blank mug design setup that will allow us to put whatever design we want onto our mug. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Once we click on it, the first thing we need to do is we need to define for the setup the size of the mug we are using. We are using the 12-ounce mug, and once you pull down the drop down, you will be able to select whatever size mug you need with an edging that you prefer. We are going to use the small straight edge for the 12-ounce mug blank. You can go back and you can look at the different designs, the rip design, the scallop design, the wavy edge at your leisure. For our purposes, we just need the simple small straight edge, so that's what I'm going to select. Now that's done, I want to come down here, and again, as with any Cricut project, you're going to get the description of the project you're going to do, the materials you need, and anything else that might need to go along with it, and instructions on how to create this project. And for our purposes, we are going to come down here and click Customize. So onto here, this is the design template that is sized already for the 12-ounce mug. There's absolutely no reason to resize this. This is your working area. You know, in previous episodes, I would come in and use a shape to make the working area. With the Cricut Mug Press design setup, it's already pre-designed for you. You don't need to do that. In addition, it's giving you guides here to appropriately place your design onto the working area and where it will lay on the cup. So if you wanted an image near the if you want an image placed near the handle, you will place the image right here. If you want something in the middle, it can go right about here. And the same for the other side of the mug if you want it near the handle. So it gives you a guide to help you place your images appropriately. I am going to use an image that I uploaded. Ooh. Actually, I bought this image through the Silhouette Design Store and uploaded it to the Cricut Design Space. And this is the image. I'm going to size it down and place it in here. I'm going to go over and duplicate it. Okay, and now I'm just going to kind of center this roughly where I want it. I am eyeballing these guides. Maybe I'll make this just a little bigger. Now remember, we're dealing with text, so we're going to have to mirror this image. Okay, so kind of got them placed where I want, and what I'm going to do is select both of these images, and I'm going to go to Align Bottom. I want to make sure they are mirroring each other precisely. And once I'm done that, I'm then going to weld them together. And that gives you one layer. So if I click on this, it's one layer. I can move it any which way I want. I'm going to be real careful about moving that. And that's where we will be. The next thing I need to do is I've decided I only want the infusible ink to adhere to the letters. I want all of this area to be cut out. in order to do that, I need to slice some layers. And this is why we welded first. I'm going to select our weld result, and I am going to select that background working area. Once those two are selected, you can only slice up to 2 layers. So we are at the max of layers to slice. You come down to the bottom right, click on slice. Give it a minute, and I'm going to start pulling away the layers it just created. So right now I have 3 choices. I can have the lettering like this. I can have the infusible ink adhere everywhere but on the letters, or I can have only the letters have infusible ink adhered to them. All the rest of it will be cut off. And that is the look I am looking for in this design. Going to discard these other layers. I am going to hide this layer because it's not necessary. You don't need this to cut out. It's not necessary. It was just as a guide to help you place your images appropriately. So I'm going to click on the eye and hide it. And at this point, we're ready to cut this image. At this point, we are ready to cut this image. And I already made a mistake. This will happen to you too, but it's completely fixable. So we're going to cancel. Before you cut, you need to attach everything together. So I'm telling the Cricut I want all of this to cut in one piece. And to do so, you select all of it and click attach. Now, when I come over here to make it, it's all on one mat. And we are going to use the long light tack mat. And here it is placed on the mat appropriately. And it's telling us it's ready to go. We want to mirror this image. And we want to click continue. We need to select infusible ink. And you go to search on materials. It's just easier if you, there we go. Do a search. Okay, the pressure is default. It's whatever the software defines that pressure to be. It's going to tell you to load your fine point blade and then load the mat onto the machine. And then once we're done that, we're going to click go and cut this. Okay, now we are ready to cut our infusible ink design. So I'm going to carefully place this on the cutting mat. I'm using a light tack mat. And the one thing I would suggest, well, 2 things actually, would be to carefully place this on the mat to make sure the infusible ink material is laying appropriately on the mat. Don't have it ajar or askew. Just make sure it's laying completely on the grid area where it should be. And I would use a brayer tool to make sure it's nice and flat. The second thing I would mention is when you're dealing with infusible ink, make sure your hands are clean and don't have any excess oil on them when handling the infusible ink itself, the material itself. So it's loaded up on the mat, and I'm going to place it into the joy. And the joy is just going to make sure I have enough material. The cutting blade is installed, and I'm going to hit go. And now, while it's preparing to cut, let's talk a little bit about this infusible ink, what this is. One of the things you should know, infusible ink is very sensitive to light. So it comes in a box, whether it's this size or the smaller size, it comes with a couple things. It comes with a dark sleeve that stores not only the infusible ink, but also butcher paper. You do not want to throw that out. Try not to use a weeding tool on this. We're going to be weeding this with hands, which is so much fun. And also each package comes with, it actually comes with a lint cloth, and you can use that to clean, a lint-free cloth to clean your substrate or your mug. You can also use a lint roller if you do not have a lint-free towel. Let's see, don't throw out the butcher paper. Like I said, you really need that when you're dealing with infusible inks, such as these markers that came with my bundle. Unfortunately, these markers cannot be used on the Joy. I'm pretty sure I can use them on the Silhouette Cameo. I haven't tried them yet. However, I have purchased, this is a mug I made previously, I have purchased infusible ink pens and I think markers, yes, and markers for the Cricut Joy that are compatible with the Cricut Joy. So if you have only the Cricut Joy, be really careful with your infusible ink pens and markers. Make sure they're compatible with the Cricut Joy. And in a future episode, we will be drawing a design. And that's when you're going to use the butcher paper to protect the inside, ooh, that's hot, of your mug press. Cricut sells two sizes of mugs that will work with infusible ink. They're 12 and 15 ounces. The 15 ounce does come with a little gift box, so it makes it nice for a gift. I will tell you, the 15 ounce mugs have a wider working area, and they're really not compatible with the Joy. If you certainly can buy the 15 ounce mugs, but you probably would need a larger cutting machine to cut the designs out. All these mugs, like I've mentioned before, are poly-coated. So you can't go to a thrift store or a dollar store and pick up a mug. But you can go on Amazon and find mug blanks that have the appropriate coating on them that will work with infusible or sublimation ink. Infusible and sublimation ink are essentially the same thing. Another safety feature that I really like is this will turn off if it's not used within a certain amount of time, which is really, really nice. It's a great safety tool. The temp and time is calculated by the mug press, and how that works is it samples the temperature of the ambient air and the temperature of the mug and calculates how long it will need to infuse the design onto your mug. So that's all done in-house. You don't have to find the precise settings for that. It will do that completely. Oh, we are done. Let me unload. Again, ventilation is key. And another thing I would mention, if you can get heat-resistant gloves, maybe that would be another thing to have, because that gets really very hot. So you need to be very careful around it. Click finish. Wow. Wow, that did come out. Again, what we need to do right now is remove, let me close the Joy, remove put this aside. And this is why I told you you need to take your time to carefully place the infusible ink sheet, because there's very little waste. Okay, now we're ready to weed this design. May the crafting gods be with me. The thing I want to do is kind of crack this design just a little bit. And what we're doing is we're removing the background and leaving the letters with any luck. It's fine. We're fine. Everything is fine. Okay, so I've weeded everything. And it was a painful process for me. But to be clear, I can't stand to weed. But it's a necessary evil in this crafting arena. So it's weeded and ready to be placed on the mug. Okay, I'm just going to see if that eyeballs evenly. Once again, I'm going to place that right here. See if I can't get that. Yes. Okay. Okay, now I am ready to place this. I'm going to move this up a bit. Very simply, very carefully. This is hot. Very hot. Place this very carefully into the mug press, keeping it center. You want the heating element to completely cover your design. We're going to slowly press down the lever, and I'm going to make sure that, and that is going to make sure the heating element is completely enclosing your mug. And what's happening right now is the heat press is taking the ambient temperature of the room. It's also taking the temperature of the mug at right now, and it's calculating how long it will take for this to transfer. And what will happen is it takes about 5 to 6 minutes, but again, it depends upon the temperature in the room and the temperature of the mug that you're working on. And while we're waiting, I'd like to talk just a little bit about a recent dust-up over proposed changes to the free Cricut design space, which kind of triggered like a titanic wave of upset from social media. And of course, when that happens a few days later, Cricut stepped back from their plans to limit the number of uploads one could make to their design software using the free version. But what was really, really interesting about it is I read a lot of comments about Cricut users, like longtime Cricut users saying, I'm done, the company has broken my trust, I'm going to go jump to Silhouette. Well, let me tell you, the grass isn't always greener in Silhouette world. The Silhouette cutting machines do have at least 2 known issues that will really frustrate you if you're new to their ecosystem. So let me help you out here. The first one, and it's a big one, the print and cut registration marks are not reliable. And there's no way around that. I have found a workaround to reduce the number of registration failures when I'm doing a print and cut. And I'm going to list the steps that I use in the description box. The auto blade is dicey. If you buy a Cameo, it's a great machine. I'm not dissuading you. My advice to you would be to ditch the auto blade that it came with, buy a new one, and also buy a ratchet blade. And it will make your life a lot easier. And again, on the plus side, with Silhouette, you are getting tracing and offset tools that are top-notch. The machine itself is actually more powerful than the Cricut Maker. You have very granular control over the cutting blade depth, the force, and the speed of the cutting. As you notice with Cricut, I just hit cut and I wasn't able to change anything, like I wasn't able to change the type of blade, the type of blade depth, or the force or the speed. It does it all for you. But sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing. But let me tell you, understanding that and learning that takes time. So there is a steep learning curve with Silhouette software. The one thing I like about Cricut software, it is very beginner friendly, especially in the designing and cutting and making world. Also, there is no yearly membership fee for Silhouette. You purchase a level of software. They do have a free version, and for transparency, the version I have is the business edition, which came with the Cameo 4 bundle that I purchased in 2019. And my crafting workflow does go between Cricut, and this is the only Cricut cutting machine I have, and my Silhouette Cameo 4 and a stamp maker that I have through Silhouette. Silhouette's ecosystem is a little bit more diverse than Cricut. You can get a stamp maker. You can also get a 3D printer. But again, they have very steep learning curves with all of them. There is no perfect system. Most people that are crafting that I follow on YouTube have both machines. So both ecosystems have their strengths and their flaws. And you, my dear followers, will need to decide what makeup of machines will work with your craft goals. And this is almost done. Yay! It does have indicator lights that will track the progress of your mug. So not that I'm stressed at all about this, but again, if you have any questions about either ecosystem, I can kind of answer some of them. I definitely had my frustrations with Silhouette, but I do recognize its strengths as well. Wow, we are done. Okay, at this point, one other thing I would add to get would be heat-resistant gloves, because this is the scary part. This should be cool, but these elements around it are very hot. Okay, so, ooh, ow, that was hot. Ow, that was hot. Okay, all right, I'm afraid. I'm just gonna take it out. Okay, and we are done. This is going to need to cool completely before you remove that tape. And that's going to take about 15 minutes. So I'm going to hop off and actually go have a cup of coffee. And I suggest you do the same. And we'll reconvene back here for the big reveal. See you then. Okay, we are back for the unveiling of this mug. It has completely cooled. And let's take off the wrapping and see how this design turned out. This is always so stress-inducing. Okay. This is okay. Wait. What? Oh, it did work. It did work. Okay. Oh, that was a little bit of a... It's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine.